Hello friends, welcome to bisptrainings.com. My name is Sumit and in this video I am going to demonstrate you how to configure GIT with Salesforce. As you know that Salesforce is an online cloud CRM solution and where we can store our Salesforce database, we can store our client information, customer information, and not only we can store data, but also we can create pages and triggers. We can configure triggers and pages. And GIT is an online repository which can be shared among multiple developers so that whenever any developer make changes in the database, it will get reflect to all other developers as well. So through this tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate you how can we configure GIT or how can we integrate GIT with Salesforce. So for this, we'll be going to use Eclipse for this solution. So I'm using Eclipse Kepler Service Release 2. This is the updated version which I'm using. And in this Eclipse version, as you can see here, the force.com ID has been successfully configured. So the first thing which you have to do is you have to download and install the Eclipse on your operating system. Then click on Help, Install New Software. So I click on Help, Install New Software, and here I type a URL that is called force.com IDE HTTP media developer force.com Eclipse, and from here I select force.com IDE. But because in my case I have already installed IDE, so I can see the available software site which has already been configured successfully with my Eclipse. So I click on this link and I can see that force.com IDE has already been configured successfully. So I click on OK and cancel this. I'm not going to add additional one. So let's start from the beginning. So first of all, we should have our force.com account. So to extract the data from Salesforce, we should have a Salesforce developer account, because to connect with Salesforce, we'll be requiring the username, password, and the security token. Now, how to reset security token in Salesforce? For that video, for that information, you can go through my existing video in which I have mentioned that how to reset the security token from Salesforce. So I click on File, New. So I click on File, New, and select force.com project. So click on force.com project. Specify name here BISP test project. Username, this will be my Salesforce username, password, and security token. So security token is must. So I provide my username sumit.bisp@bisp.com, my password of my developer's account, and I'm requiring the security token. So that's my security token, and click on next. So it will start fetching the organization details and will ask me to load the required files. So as you can see here, it has fetched the initial project contents. So I include all of the components, all the components which are available within my developer's account, which contains the Apex and Visual Force pages, classes, triggers, components, all the static resources, and so on. I would like to include all of them. So I click on Finish. So you can see here, project has been successfully added with the following resources. The classes, all the classes are available along with the components. If any components are available in that project, all the pages. So all these are pages which I have been defined in my developer's account, in my Salesforce developer's account, and so on. After we're done with this, we need to install GIT. So I again go to Help, click on Eclipse Marketplace, and from here we need to install EGIT. So in my case, I have already installed EGIT So I entered here EGIT and I look for this reference. So we'll be requiring this EGIT, that is GIT integration for Eclipse 4.5.0. So as you can see here in my case, I'm not getting this kind of button, I'm getting the uninstall or the update button. So update is not required because I have already installed, I have already configured the updated version or the latest version of GIT integration for Eclipse. But I'm getting uninstall button because I have already installed it. So this is already installed in my solution. So that's why I'm not requiring to install it again. But in your case, because this will be a first time, so you need to click on install button and then it will set up EGIT on your current system with your current Eclipse. So now it's time to configure repository on your local system, and we used to call it as a local repository. So to set up a local repository or to configure a repository on a local system, I right click on the project, click on team, and then click on share project. So when you click on share project, once you have successfully configured GIT in your Eclipse, you will be getting GIT. So I select this GIT, click next. In the next window, we need to configure GIT repository. So either we can select an existing repository or we can create a new one. So basically, I'm going to create a folder on my desktop, and that folder I will be treated as a local repository. So I click on create, browse, and on my desktop I'm going to create a new folder named as BISP GIT. BISP GIT, something like this, and okay, finish. Rest of the things we do not need to touch, they will remain same, and click on finish. So if we get back the home page, you see we are getting one folder named as BISP Git. It says BISP test project, which contains all the classes, all the components, all the pages and triggers. So this is the local repository for the current project. Now if you check the Salesforce project, there is a folder which looks something like this question mark. This question mark means that GIT does not know what to do with these files. Either we can schedule them for commit or we can add few of them in the ignore list. Ignore list means they will not be saved in the GIT. So what we'll do is we will commit our files and folders in local repository. Before that, we have to mention that which files and folders should be committed and ignored. So in this case, I'm going to add all the files and folders for to add to the commit or to the Salesforce directory for commit. So I right click on the project, again select team, and from here I select add to index. And after this add to index operation, you can see the icon has been turned into something like this. So now it's time to commit all the index file and folders in the local repository. So again I right click on the folder, project, team, and this time I select commit. So finally it would be asking for me to commit. So you can see it opens a commit, it opens a directory which will ask us to commit the changes. So I give a message here, I simply type a message here, my first commit for BISP demo project. So these are the files. So there are around 136 files which are included for the commit, and author is this, committer is this, and I simply click on commit. And the changes have been successfully done into this local repository. So until here we have done configuration for local repository. Now let's move on to create a remote repository So for remote repository, there are a lot of options. There are a lot of repositories available for hosting the code which supports the GIT, like we have GitHub, we have Bitbucket, and we have Unfundle. So in this case, I'm using GitHub, and I have already configured, I have already registered on GitHub. So as you can see, I have already registered on GitHub named as Sumit Goel 2006. So, and in this GitHub, I have already created new few repositories. So you can see these are the repositories which are already configured in this. So let's suppose I'm going to use the existing one. So I want to configure this. I want to integrate this test git repository with my current solution, with my current project, so that whenever we commit our project, whenever we make any change in our solution in Salesforce and we make commit from here, it will quickly reflect into our GIT online or on our remote repository. So for this, we need to click on this test GIT, and here we would be requiring the URL for this repository. So as you can see here, this repository is blank. There are no files which have been added into this repository. It's a blank file. So I would be requiring a URL. So for the URL, click on this clone or download this repository and you will be getting the URL. So this URL is a HTTPS URL. Also we have got SSH as well. So but in SSH we will be requiring the keys, security key, and something like that. So I'm not going to go for SSH. I'll go for HTTPS. So I select this URL and copy this URL, or you can paste it somewhere else so that we can use it whenever it is required. So we'll be requiring it very soon. So I'll get back to the Eclipse, click on open perspectives, and from here I select GIT. That is the Git repository exploring. So I select this, click on OK. So it will create a new GIT repository for the current project, BISP Git. So here we will get the list of the local repositories in this perspective. So right click on remote and click create remote. Here I'll give a name to this. So BISP Git, and this will be configuring push, because I would like to we can configure both push and fetch. Push is to store the data, store the files onto the remote repository, and fetch is to fetch the data, fetch the files and the folders from the remote repository. So here I'm going to configure, by default I'm going to configure here push. So I click on OK. It is asking for URL, so click on change, and here we need to paste the URL. So I'll just get back to my test git, copy this URL from here, paste this URL, and here we need to provide username and password. Because I have already added this, configured this earlier, so that's why I'm getting this option. If you don't want this to be appear automatically, you can uncheck this option. So next time when you provide URL, this will not display username and password. So for safer side, because I'm the only developer for this right now, so I'm just just check this, and the protocol will be HTTPS, because this is HTTPS protocol. Click on finish. So as you can see here, we have push URI, but also we need to configure reference mapping. So for reference mapping, I click on add and remove this head, and instead of this I want to store this into the master branch. Master branch is because the branch is master here. We would like to store in a master branch. So here also I select master branch, select this, I copy this local branch and paste in the remote branch as well, and click on OK. So for local branch and for remote branch, both are same, and OK. So when we click on dry run, we'll be getting this kind of error message. Now this error message I shown you intentionally so that in your case, if you get this kind of error message, how to sort out this issue. To sort out this issue, first of all I click on OK and I save it. Do not click on save and push, simply click on save. So how to sort out this issue? First off, select remote, BISP git. This is for fetch, this is for push. So right click and click on configure fetch. In this configure fetch, that's the URL. So we need to do the mapping. So ensure that it pointed to the remote repository. So I click on add, and here I type master. So it will be getting the remote fetch source. So that's the same fetch source which we have specified in the push one. So for this case, we need to specify both push and fetch. Click on next and finish. So finish and save it. So let's test the fetch one. So I right click and click on fetch, and you can see here the process is going on and it will show 100% successful. So the fetch has been done successfully. There is no issue with fetch. Next, click on branch folder. As here we have branches, so I expand branch. In branches, select local and master. So select, right click and click on merge. Click on merge. Then I select the master. So I select this BISP git master and click on merge. Okay, so the merge has been done. Now finally we can test it. So for testing, we can click on push. So to test whether it is pushing the data into the repository successfully or not, so I get back to my force.com, right click on my project, go to team, remote, and click on push. Here I select the current configuration, configure remote repository BISP GitHub test git, click on finish. And you can see the process is going on. It's 50% done successfully. So there is no error message. It means the files have been, the folders and the files have been pushed successfully onto the remote repository. So now let's go back to the GitHub and let's test it. So for right now, test git is a blank. So I just refresh it. And you can see here, as soon as I refreshed it, I got a new folder named as BISP test project. It's the message is my first commit for BISP demo project, expanded BISP test project, and will get all the files, SRC files, project files, and settings. So when I expand SRC, I'll be getting all the classes, components, pages, triggers, and so on. So like this, we can upload, we can integrate GIT with Salesforce by using Eclipse. Now this would be helpful for all the other developers who would like to access who all are working on the same project, on the same Salesforce project. So that's how we can integrate GIT with Salesforce by using Eclipse. That's all in this video. If you have any queries, you can write to us on www.bisp20s.com. You can subscribe our YouTube channel. Keep watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.